And this phone is a watered down version, and maybe watered down is not the right term for it, but it is a lesser version of the Motorola Edge Plus. Originally retails for $700, but you can get one if you pre-order one here in the States for $500 right now, with the Snapdragon 765. As soon as I saw this, the first thing that went through my head was they're competing with the Nord. The specs on this for $500 seems legit. It seems like, would I like for it to be $400 like the OnePlus Nord would be in India? Sure. But for $500, if you are looking for something brand new, if you're looking for something that's like made in 2020, this might be something worth considering. $500 is still a little up there. I think it's still worth taking a look at what other phones are available, but maybe something to add to your roster of potential phones. I mean, it's a nice looking phone. The thing that worries me is this Edge. I know it's called the Edge for that specific reason, but the one thing that I always complain about is, yes, aesthetically, these edges on the phones, when they curve over, they look great. The problem is the accidental touches that can come with that. There are ways to remedy this. You can get a case, but for someone like me who doesn't use cases, that's not an option. I can't remember. I know on the Edge Plus, you can turn off the Edge capability. Like it'll turn this Edge completely off. And then maybe that will alleviate it from screen touches. If anyone in chat knows, let me know. I don't even know if anyone, well, no, this phone's not available yet. But I maybe they've already talked about how you don't have to have this Edge on, and then it would eliminate the accidental touch, con for this phone. So back in April, so this is a while ago already, Motorola returned to the flagship arena, well, for the Edge Plus. And today, its little brother is hitting the market. The standard Motorola Edge is now available for pre-order unlocked with its Snapdragon 765 and a much more reasonable price tag. Yeah, $500, I think, is still higher than I want it to be, but for the specs in here, actually, if I remember correctly, I think this is 256 gigs of internal storage, which then at least makes that $500 price point not as bad. This is the 765G that is coming on the reportedly Pixel 5. It is currently in the LG Velvet. It's in the OnePlus Nord. It's in a lot of phones at this point. This 765G looks to be the standard chipset for manufacturers who don't want to spend a ton of money on an 865 and want to give a more reasonable price point. This still delivers 5G and solid performance, but for a fraction of the price. Fraction is pushing it a little bit there. Still expensive. If you're gonna be delivering a Snapdragon 765G chipset and you're going to charge $700, that is not a fraction of the price. Is it a fraction of the price when you compare it to, say, a Galaxy S20 Ultra for $1,500, or is it $1,400? Whatever it is, sure. But it's a fraction, no, because you can get a OnePlus 8 with a Snapdragon 865 chipset here in the States, and you can get that for $700. So something to consider if you're thinking about, look at that. Think about that. If this phone right now was not priced on sale for $500 and it retailed at its $700 price point, you can argue that why not just get the OnePlus 8 instead? That has a better chipset. It's not going to have as much internal storage, but it'll have more RAM. I think the battery might be similar. Anyway, just, you got to look at the numbers. You got to see what's right for you. You got to check your priorities there. So the rest of the spec sheet is similar to the Edge Plus 2. The Snapdragon 765 Motorola Edge has a 6.7-inch FHD 90Hz display, 256 gigs of internal storage, 6 gigs of RAM, and a 4,500 milliamp hour battery with USB-C 18-watt fast charging. There's also a headphone jack, dual stereo speakers, which is great. The one thing I talked about yesterday, I love having stereo speakers on a phone. The biggest con that I have on my Huawei P40 Pro Plus is the fact that it has a mono speaker. It doesn't have stereo speakers. I paid $1,300 for this phone. It doesn't have stereo speakers. While the Motorola Edge Plus costs $1,000, this version costs $700 at retail. To get things kicked off, though, early buyers can pre-order the phone for just $500. Plus, this unlocked version won't be exclusive to Verizon, thank God. It'll work on all US carriers. That pre-order promo lasts until July 31st. So I went ahead and I checked on Amazon, and $500 right there. This item will be released on July 31st, and then you can use it with AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon. I don't want to say it's the best buy, but it's not a bad buy if you're looking for 5G. I'm still going to point out that 5G still might not be the best indicator for why you should buy a phone. Like, don't use 5G as your priority. At least consider the other specs on here and try to compare it with other phones that are priced at $500 right now. Think of the OnePlus 7 Pro. Think of the OnePlus 7T. Think of maybe the upcoming, Pixel 4a. I don't know if that phone's coming out, but I don't think you have a lot of time to consider if you want to spend that $500, since this is you need to get it, I think, before July 31st. So you have maybe a week and a half or so to make that decision. You can get it also from Motorola's website directly. Unlocked 256 gigs of internal storage, and at $500. It's a nice looking phone. And Motorola used to be one of my go-tos for phones, and not so much anymore. But I think they have a handful of phones that are still decent, and this might be. Another thing to consider, though, is how long is this Motorola Edge going to be supported for? Is this going to get 2 years of updates? If you don't care about that, then whatever. But it is still something to consider.